So you just opened your mailbox and got that dreaded letter, jury duty. You have to report. And the question that everyone wants to know is, how do I get out of jury duty? I've been a part of juries. I've been involved working for a judge in some jury selection. And so let's dive into it. The most important thing to remember is that this is really a privilege. It is a privilege to be on a jury because there are a lot of countries, I've done a lot of international work, there are a lot of countries that do not have trials by juries of your peers. It means you're getting tried by a judge that may be partial. It's your peers that are trying you. And so this is really a remarkable system that we have in the United States. And it's an honor to be a part of it. And if you get the opportunity to serve on a jury, I hope you will actually do it and try to enjoy it and want to be a part of the process, because it's something that we take for granted that makes our system unique, and we are lucky to have it and lucky to have juries. Whatever reason, you want to know how to get out of it, but we're going to explain more of the concept of voir dire. That is the jury selection process. Each side gets to strike jurors. So, and then you try to get down to this group of about 12. Now the numbers all depend on your jurisdiction, the type of jury you have, but typically you're gonna aim for about a 12-person jury. What often happens is that you start with a pool of 40 people, and sometimes this is more. It can be 100 that they have in a big metropolitan area, but you have a pool of maybe 40 people called for jury duty. There's usually a pre-questionnaire that you're filling out, and it might have to do with things of your occupation, and they're going to look for some names, and if you have the same. If you have a relationship or you have a profession that might give the different sides pause, they might not select you at that point. But they'll take that pool of 40 and they will grab, of the pool of 40, they'll grab about 30. They'll bring 30 up and they're going to start going through jury selection. Now, as they strike people from the group of 30, if they get down below 12, they're going to start pulling from the other 10 or more that are left behind. So they're going to start with that group of 30. Okay. And they're going to begin asking questions like, if you have ever been convicted of a crime, and if you have, they may throw you out because of that out of technicality. If you're related to to a witness, if you're related to a party, they're going to probably throw you out right away. If there's some other reason that you could be biased right at the outset, they will probably eliminate you, and the judge may just eliminate you because of that right away. So they'll go through this series of questions where the judge is often asking these questions. He might give a little bit of an introduction on the case. So I was a juror, or at least I was selected in the jury pool. I wasn't ultimately selected. The case was a statutory rape case. So they asked, if anybody has been involved with a statutory rape, or and it was a kid at one of the local schools. So they wanted to make sure that no one was a teacher at that school. They gave the witnesses, they gave the different parties involved, and they wanted to make sure that nobody was related. And so that was the first process. Again, that was really judge-led. Then you start moving to where the attorneys ask questions. And they go back and forth. Each one gets a turn, and then they get to make, at the end of this series of questions, they go through their list and make strikes. The attorneys will ask, they want to kind of get to know the jury a little bit, and they're really looking for bias. And if bias shows up, they will probably eliminate you. Now, sometimes they might just directly ask about bias. If there's a drunk driving case, they might ask you if you've ever had too much to drink and been driving. And then they might probe that a little bit. And they'll be asking specific jurors questions. And sometimes they're asking questions to get to something deeper. So in the statutory rape case, this 18-year-old and this 16-year-old, some people might say, it's kids being kids, right? But there's an element of morality to it as well, and so they wanted to probe that without asking, what's your faith position. So they asked a question like, where do you give money or volunteer your time? And so some people would start talking about their church or faith-based organizations. And so I had a friend who got called in for jury duty, and we went and looked up the case online. It's public record. And it was a child abuse case where someone an adult had sexually abused a child under 4 years old. And my friend has children under 4 years old. This gave him, a very emotional response to that type of situation, and probably puts him in a position where he'd be biased. Now, these are the kind of things that you want to talk about. You want to be memorable. I remember when I was sitting there in the jury pool watching, there were other people who, they didn't necessarily talk about the case, but maybe they had very strong religious views. And they started talking about their religion and kind of going on and on about it. They got eliminated. People who had strong feelings, and this again was a statutory rape case, about parental discipline, and one of the attorneys started asking about, what's your view on parental discipline? He had a more specific question, and a couple people just started going on and on about how parents are responsible and they don't do enough, and a society has created a place where parents can't discipline anymore in public. They got kicked off the jury. So be memorable or be crazy. You have a high likelihood of getting thrown off the jury. Now, typically, this process of voir dire takes most of a morning. So you don't just walk in and get thrown off the jury. You're going to be sitting there for a while. But if it's a multi-day trial, obviously you're in a better spot spending the morning than several days. Another question that people ask is, hey, what if I'm a lawyer, or there's a certain profession, a teacher, and I have to teach class? Can I get a waiver from jury duty because of that, or was there a reason they can't select me? The answer is no. Barack Obama was recently called for jury duty and showed up. Now, he ultimately wasn't selected. He's going to elicit strong opinions from either side. You're either going to side with him on the jury, or you're going to side the other way. He was a constitutional law professor, right? So no one is immune from jury duty by their profession unless you work for the court. So that's how you get eliminated from jury duty. But again, it's a great institution. It's an honor that we have in this country. It's a privilege, and if you get to serve, I hope you'll look at it as a privilege.